What's up guys, Nintendo64 here, and welcome to another tier list for the channel. Today, we are going to be ranking all 30 of the tracks of Mario Kart World. And by we, I am, of course, referring to my boys. This time, I am just joined by Prism and Michael Game Show.
Hello guys, what's up? I'm excited to do Mario Kart World, the newest Mario Kart game in the franchise, and I would like to say that even though these Mario Kart World just came out months ago, some of our opinions may not be exactly the same in the future, and if there's possibly DLC, we might do it later on, but as for now, this is what we're feel about these tracks for now.
Mm-hmm. I can at least say that my opinions has definitely shifted since the game's released, but I think these more or less will be like my finalized opinions.
Yeah, same with me, but again, like with DLC, it could also change, so we'll figure out if there is.
Mm-hmm. Well, if there's a DLC, like my opinions on the base game tracks here will remain the same. So it is just gonna be us three and not Jordan, because unfortunately, as of the time of recording, Jordan has not acquired a Switch 2 or Mario Kart World yet. I will say before we start, there's a couple things we will address. First, we will not be counting the 7 extra SNES tracks that are part of the free roam. If we did, they would probably all be in C tier. Second, we will only be counting the full version of Crown City, because that's kind of obvious. Like I said, 30 tracks, and Crown City and Peach Stadium are repeats in this game, which, as a side note, we are not going to be counting that poor excuse of a track that is the Peach Stadium Rectangle, because that's probably the worst track in the whole freaking series, if I'm being honest. Thirdly, there is a versus mode variant of Shy Guy Bazaar where we get to drive through Daisy's new palace, but we can't count that for the sake of this since we only get to play with that variant for one lap as of now. Maybe in the future they'll update it so that we can play that variant on its own, but as of now we won't be counting it. But I will still bring it up when we get to Shy Guy Bazaar later. And finally, we're not going to be judging these tracks based on how crazy the new mechanics and strats and stuff can be when pulled off. We're only at the skill level of doing some of the mild stuff. So we can admit that we have a skill issue and that we could be better at this game, but we're not going to go out of our way to grind out that crap, folks.
Yeah, so leave us alone.
Mm-hmm. And this coming from a guy that loves to speedrun the mainline Marios, it's more so like knowing some of the tricks for those games, and it's like I don't have to like grind that much just to know those. Whereas for this game, I had to be at like 200 IQ mode to be able to do that, and I do not have 200 IQ. Anyway, without further ado, let's get this tier list started. Our first track to talk about is Mario Brothers Circuit. Right out of the gate, they hit us with a different take on a circuit track, and I think this one's pretty solid. I still remember how this track was shown off for the first 2 trailers of this game, and it left some of us speculating as to what was going on. Like, we saw the highway that it was leaving this track, but we also saw the higher up turn of this track in the background. It was a lot to dissect from the first trailer. And then the second trailer hit, and this track was used nicely to show off the big stuff about the game, including the 24 players aspect, even though we kind of were able to figure that out in the previous trailer. But I digress. That's all a positive for this track, sort of. As for the track itself, I'd say it's a pretty good starter track. It nicely introduces some of the new mechanics of the game, like the grind rails and the new take on gliding. The width of the track is big enough to accommodate 24 racers, but also not feel too big to the point of being annoying to drive on. I think having the track be in the desert is interesting, and I'm glad they put it in the orange sand part of the desert. It honestly helps the track give off a Radiator Springs vibe, which I like since I have a childhood bias for cars. But also since I think orange sand deserts are much more appealing than yellow deserts, which I'll kind of bring up when we get to the other desert tracks. I do wish that there were a few more references to the arcade Mario Bros. Game beyond just the wall on the right side before the starting line, or at least more references to the bros themselves, especially Luigi, because it hardly feels like a circuit that belongs to either of them, at least more so compared to some of the other circuits in the series. But despite that, again, this is still a good starting track for this game. I'd say it's up there with Mario Kart Stadium and the Luigi circuits of Double Dash and Wii. I'm going to give it a solid B tier.
As for the first track of Mario Kart World, I think you're right, Alex. I think it does a pretty good job with starting up how the game mechanic works and how it's different to the other Mario Kart tracks or games and stuff. I also remember when I first saw the trailer for it, like last year, because I did a reaction video of the Nintendo Switch 2. launching, and I actually thought it was actually a 3D Mario game at first because, well, I didn't realize it at first, but then it was a new Mario Kart game, and of course it showed this track and all of this cool stuff that it meant to do. So yeah, but the track itself, it's pretty cool, and I think it's a good way to start off how the game mechanic works. And like you said, for it being Mario Bros. Circuit, it mostly has Mario, but not really Luigi, which is kind of weird because it's called Mario Bros. You'd think it would also have more Luigi in it, as well as Mario, of course, but it really doesn't. So yeah, I think it's a solid track to start off with. I'm gonna give it a solid B. Good start. We'll see how the rest of the 29 tracks go.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good starter track. It's nothing fancy. It's a nice like desert gas station type vibe, I guess. It's simple, but I really like it. I'd say I'd put it in B.
You mind if I say something really quick? This track, for some reason, I don't know if you guys agree or not, kind of reminds me of the Grand Canyon, or at least parts of it for some reason. At least in that area.
Yeah, I definitely see that because I said that the track gives off a Radiator Springs vibe, and the Grand Canyon kind of ties into that too. So I could definitely see that perspective easily. And I'm glad we're at a unanimous decision for this track because I think that's deserving from Mario Bros. Circuit.
Yep, I agree.
All right, next we move on to Crown City. I can't believe we have a sectioned track this early on in the game. I mean, technically we only played one section of it in the Mushroom Cup and then part of a section later in the Shell Cup, but still, there are a lot of set pieces and mechanics that bring this one to life and truly makes it feel like a big city. The best part about that is that the track is so big that even the bottom side of the city itself, with the beach and stuff, is its own variant of the track in an exclusive intermission and versus mode. I like all the Easter eggs present around the stage, with my favorite being the Roy Smooth Sounds building near where Section 2 starts, which implies that that's where that brand of Royce is based. And as a side note, I'm at least glad there's a reference to Roy's brand and Morton's construction brand in the game, since the Koopalings themselves aren't physically present in the game yet, as of this recording. And I know that people have been smack-talking the Koopalings not being in this game, but after not seeing them in Mario Wonder prior to that game's Switch 2 version, I was quite upset to see them absent here. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole because I don't want to get into that whole drama. Anyway, I like Section 2 the most, with the driving over the solar panels and then through a giant crowned tire down to more roofs at a very cool angle, and then gliding above the road to get to Section 2. Yes, that's because we do play that section in the Mushroom Cup, but I still really, really like that part the most. I like how Crown City also has its own Golden Gate / Brooklyn Bridge that runs all the way across the ocean to where Faraway Oasis is located. Granted, the Crown Bridge is a mostly straight line and makes it a little bit boring to drive across in its intermission, but we're not factoring that. I think I have a couple more thoughts on Crown City, but I'm sure they'll probably be addressed by either of these guys, so I'm going to put it in A tier. Definitely better than most of the city tracks from Tour, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like this track. I think, like you said, a massive improvement over most of the city tracks because, most of them are just boring and not that interesting. And also this track, the first one to introduce intermission tracks, but since we're not going to rank them, obviously, so I just want to mention that. Anyway, yeah, I actually really like this track a lot. It reminds me of me going to downtown cities, which I've been to a lot of in the past. I like driving around. It's fun to do. There's a lot of cool things in it, like the Koopalings stuff, even though they're not physically in the game. It's a huge track. There was times where I did free roam and I drive around in one of the level parking lots area, and I just did drifting from the bottom to the tippy top of it. It was so fun to do. There's a lot of fun things I'd like to do on this track. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Definitely took a step up from Mario Bros. Circuit, so I'm gonna give it an A tier.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool track. I like that it's like a full big city. The track itself it's okay. I do like the part where you go on the roof though. That is fun. I don't know. I really like the city, and I just think the track itself is kind of okay. I'm gonna put it in A just because it's really cool, but I don't know. I feel like the track itself could have done a little more.
Fair enough.
I would like to also point out, because I forgot to say it again, but there was one time I was playing on this track and we were on the roof section with the guardrails and stuff, And for some reason, I tripped off of like I can't remember if it was a ramp or a railing. It was one of those two, and I mistimed it or something, and I completely fall in the middle, and I got so mad I was screaming at the top of my lungs when it happened. Yeah, and I was like, "Baby Peach, you freaking idiot!" or something like that.
I can definitely say, piggybacking off of Prism's point, there is that it should be kind of obvious that some of the points for these stages will be the free roam details. Because, like I said, some of the stuff that like we can't find in free roam are just like adding a lot to the track, really.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like the whole city is really cool, but the actual track you race on in the cups, I just feel is a little bland.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely like some tracks where I think that the track itself is okay, but some of the free roam stuff you can find is awesome.
Yeah, I think the free roam definitely put this up higher, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, up next we have a track that is not going to be helped by free roam by any means. This is Whistletop Summit. Mostly because it's honestly kind of underwhelming. The idea of it being just a train haven set in the mountains is cool, but I feel like this is a track that is hurt by the rail mechanic, actually. It's not the mechanic itself, it's the amount of rails littered across this track. There's so many rails around that it just makes the track into a hold the A button simulator, where you jump off the rails only sometimes. Now sure, the rails and other stuff help to make some insane strats for this track, but like I said earlier, we're not at the skill up to do that crap. Plus, we're factoring everything for these tracks and not just the crazy strats. Bars. Anyway, I do still think the track is alright despite being underwhelming, but it's really hard to say much about it because of that, so I'm gonna put it in C tier. For me personally, it would be somewhere within the top of it, but yeah.
Okay, I can see what they were trying to do with this track. They want to like introduce the rail stuff, how you can ride on rails and even on the tracks and stuff, but there are just way too many of them, and it kind of just like makes it kind of slower in comparison to like when you do it normally. Like again, I understand why they made this track. They just want to show it off, but it just kind of gets annoying. Like really, honestly, and that's why this track really just took a step back compared to the previous two that we just talked about. Like I said, I don't think it's bad or anything, but it just kind of gets boring and it's a little bit annoying. So I'm gonna put this thing in C tier.
I think this is a really cool concept for a track, but in execution it's kind of boring. I have went through it in free roam, and I noticed the detail of how the first half you like loop around on the top of the mountain, and the second half you go through the same mountain, which I never noticed before. It's cool, but yeah, I have the same problem with the rails, where like, why actually drive on the track when you can just take the rails the whole time? I like the idea, but I'm gonna have to put it in C.
Damn, we really are just having consistent opinions this time around, huh?
So far, yeah.
And I'm expecting that to remain the same for our next track to talk about, DK Spaceport. Because, boy, this one has a lot going on for it. Right out of the gate, they basically made 25M into a track, and they did it in the most creative way I've ever seen. They have you starting out a bit south of the track for Section 1, and then when you make the turns to approach the track, you see a giant Robo DK that gets mad and jumps up the scaffoldings. And then from there, we just go back and forth up the track to the top, with 5 sections of different obstacles or track assets. So for Section 2, there are springboards that you can use to jump over the incoming barrels coming at you. Section 3 has barrels getting launched out from the sides, and there's ramps that you can take to help avoid those. Section 4 has rails you can go across and jump between. Section 5 has walls you can drive up and jump between. And the 6th and final section has you facing Robo DK, who's throwing huge barrels, and when you drive between his feet and underneath him, the track is over. So the track itself is already really good, but all the details they have make it even better. Not just in free roam, but just in general. Well, free roam details are still part of it, but I digress. The idea of making the track into a spaceport is a really cool idea. And I like how because they did that, there are some buildings off near where Section 1 starts that I would guess would be where the scientists of the facility work. I think my favorite detail, though, is the music, specifically for the last section, which I'll get to in a sec. They effectively remixed the level music from the original Donkey Kong starting in Section 2, and they add extra instruments for each section until the final, which uses the hammer theme from Donkey Kong. Like, that is a clever choice for a final section of a track based on Donkey Kong. and it's at a faster pace to give it a greater sense of urgency when driving towards this giant robot gorilla throwing giant barrels at you. All in all, DK Spaceport is a fantastic course. There isn't anything negative I have to say about it. I'm giving it S tier. Definitely a great closing track for the Mushroom Cup.
This is definitely one of my favorite tracks of the game. Like, it's so cool. And obviously it's better than 75 AM in Super Smash Bros. I just wanted to say that.
That's kind of obvious, yeah.
But I actually really like this track a lot. It's the design of it is just so damn cool. Especially that DK robot thing. Like, oh my god, it's just so creative. Like, it's one of the creative tracks I've seen in Mario Kart in quite a while. I like that you just race at the from the bottom to the top of it. There's 6 laps. Well, if you play the Mushroom Cup, like minus the 2 international laps, that's 8 technically, but still, like, it's a lot of fun. And you can also, like, there's a couple of railings that you can go ahead and do a straight drift and slide on the side of the walls. But the only thing I don't like from this track is that the last lap. Yeah, maybe it's just because that it's really only like 10 seconds long. And maybe that's the point, but it's just like, I don't know, it's just kind of underwhelming to me. But I do like him, like, throwing the barrels at you. Like, they're huge. Like, they're like almost hard to avoid. Like, there's been several times where I played this track in like the normal Mushroom Cut, and I get so annoyed with that stupid barrel thing, and I would just like scream at the top of my lungs when I get hit, and then someone else steals first place from me. Like, that has happened several times. Also, in Free World in this track, there is one thing that we accidentally create. I don't know if I should say meme yet, but kind of like a new thing that we can for now.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and talk about it. So there's a specific part at the top. When we were like screwing around in free roam at some points before doing this tier list, Michael had accidentally like fell through that hole like a bunch of times, and Prism kind of like I guess made fun of him for it, and now it's kind of become a meme for us.
And we called it the Michael hole.
Yeah, the Michael hole.
And ever since then, I go down as Baby Peach and like fall down, and I say wee. All right, but besides the new meme that we're probably gonna say for the rest of our lives now, okay, maybe not, but you know, this track goes to S tier. It's a really creative track, and actually one of my favorite tracks of the entire game.
Oh yeah, this one's a really good track. The layout itself is kind of boring with just zigzagging back up, but everything else about it is really cool. I like how it's like a obstacle course all the way up. It's really fun. Also, the theme is cool. I don't know. S tier.
All right.
It's also kind of funny how the first 4 tracks it was actually perfect with S, A, B, C tier so far, even if it's not completely in order, but still kind of funny.
Yeah, honestly, even despite like Whistletop Summit being underwhelming, like I still think that like the Mushroom Cup probably has like a very good like consistent quality to it.
It does.
All right, next up we have our first batch of retro tracks for this game, with the first one of those being Desert Freaking Hills. So, if some of you may recall, we had Toad Circuit and Bone Dry Dunes at the bottom of the Mario Kart 8 tier list. And while I still think they're my least favorite tracks in that game, I have admittedly grown a soft spot for them. More so Bone Dry Dunes than Toad Circuit, if you can believe that. Because now I would actually put both of those in D tier than F tier. The same cannot be said about Desert Hills, because believe it or not, I've actually started to dislike it more and more as time has gone on. And I'm not just talking about the version in this game specifically, I mean in general. Whenever I saw this track in Versus Randoms in DS or Wii lately, my disappointment grows immeasurable. Yes, it is a bit disappointing that they threw out the Mario 3 references and obstacles in favor of stretching out parts of the track and putting those Moai enemy things from Mario Land 1. But that still wouldn't have helped this track if they did keep the Mario 3 stuff. Though I do like the Moais here, they are kind of funny admittedly. But the worst part about it all is that I can't put my finger on why I've grown to dislike Desert Hills so much now. It could be the general vibe of it, it could be how short it is, it could be the music, it could be all 3 of those reasons put together. I don't know. Bottom of the line is, I don't like this track anymore. I never thought I'd say this. I'd rather play on Bone Dry Dunes 10 times in a row than any version of Desert Hills 10 times in a row. I don't think Desert Hills has any levels of trash that something like 75M is in Smash Bros., but I'm still putting Desert Hills in F tier. I don't want to see it ever return in the future. And if it does return in the future, it's going to go straight into F tier again.
Yeah, I'm not really much of a fan of this track either. Like, I mean, it is like the worst version out of the 3 tracks. Like, I mean, I don't even like Desert Hills that much, like in general. I mean, well, I don't really like desert tracks like at all because I don't really like desert tracks or desert in general. But they somehow made this one like worse and made me like not like it even more. And like Alex says, I have no idea why I don't like this track. And maybe because it's just boring as hell. Like, there's really not much happening in it besides like those enemies from Super Mario Land, which I barely even noticed they're even there in the first place. Also, I would like to mention that for some reason I have seen people complain on this track that it looks nothing like the original for whatever reason, and maybe that's partially true, but there's also a certain track which we'll talk about in a little bit that people also said that looks nothing like the original. Now, I won't go into much more detail of it when we get there, but still, my point still stands. Like, I don't know where people thought that this looks nothing like the original because they tried to make it close to it, but you know what? I don't really want to argue about it anymore. But anyway, yeah, I don't really like Desert Hills that much in this one. Seriously, I'd rather have Dry Dry Ruins from Mario Kart Wii.
Dude, I would have killed to have Dry Dry Ruins back, dude. I love Dry Dry Ruins.
Yeah. I know you do. Or even Dry Dry Desert from Double Dash. I'd rather have that as well than Desert Hills from Mario Kart DS. So, well, I don't really dislike it as much as Alex does. I'm gonna put it in high F tier.
I feel like this track is overhated. It's just a simple desert track, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as everyone says. I do like the Moai enemies. They're fun. I'm gonna put it in C.
Alright, D tier average it is. I do think that it is overhated. I just personally hate it for completely different reasons. I just don't like it.
Yeah, it is overhated. I agree on that, but it's just like, but I still don't really like this version like at all. I even though I don't like, I don't want to play the Wii version or the DS version than this version.
I think part of the factor for me is just because I think it's just way too boring. It's probably one of the most boring tracks to me in the game. Like, I don't even know if I want to admit if it's more boring than Figure 8 Circuit, if I'm being honest. But we're just going to leave it in D tier, and we're going to leave it at that. Next up, we have a desert track that very much is not anywhere near the levels of garbage. This is Shy Guy Bazaar. I honestly kind of like the route they went for with this remake. The general layout and obstacles are more or less exactly how it was in 7. They added a touch of world mechanics here and there to spice it up. Now the layout itself I've always just found it to be fine, so I'm just going to talk about the other stuff in this track, because I don't need to say anything about the main layout and obstacles. So, I think it's interesting that with the day and night cycle, the track can now appear in the daytime, as it was originally going to be, because Shy Guy Bazaar was made by Retro Studios, the folks behind the Metroid Prime games and the Deacon Country Returns and Tropical Freeze, but they actually had it set in the daytime before the people making it changed it to nighttime. I personally kind of prefer it at nighttime though, especially since the sand here is more yellow than tan now. But yeah, that's still kind of a cool thing that the day and night cycle kind of brings Shy Guy Bazaar back to its quote-unquote roots. I think my favorite change to this track is that they expanded upon its theming by putting an Arabian-themed palace for Daisy and just adding stuff around to further give off that vibe, which I think is cool. And as a side note, it's nice that they're even making reference to Sarasa Land in this game to begin with, which I would have said that when we were on Desert Hills with the Moais, but I hate that track, so wouldn't have been right to say it that there. Anyway, while on the subject of the palace, like I said earlier, this track actually has an alternate version exclusive to Versus mode with an intermission, where you go to the left side and then into the palace, which is really cool, and again, I wish that we could play that variant standalone as a track. There's no whole lot I think is bad about the stage, but at the end of the day, it's still a track that I thought to be just fine, so I'm gonna put it in B tier, below Mario Circuit right now.
Yeah, I actually kind of like this track. I don't really remember the original too much because I didn't really find it that memorable, but I actually like this version a lot better. I think the nighttime actually fits it better because I played Mario Kart 7 and this version at nighttime a few times, and I actually prefer that. So I don't have too much to say about this track. I think it's a pretty solid remake of the original track, especially with Daisy's Palace. So I'm just gonna put it in B tier below Mario Circuit so far.
This is a fun track. I like how it's like you drive through the market and then go into the palace. Also, the theme is really good. I don't know, it's just a good track. I'll put it in B.
Are we averaging it below Mario Circuit or Mario Bros Circuit?
Yeah.
I'd put it below.
All right, cool. All right. Our next track to talk about, as we have alluded to earlier with Desert Hills, is a track that has finally gotten a remake after all this time. This is N64 Wario Stadium. First things first, I don't want to hear any, "Oh, they completely redesigned Wario Stadium so now it's unrecognizable and therefore garbage." Because that is one of the most brain-dead complaints to a track that desperately needed a remake I've ever heard. Now, before I get into this version of Wario Stadium, there is just one thing I miss from the original. I'm referring to the funny jump right at the starting line of the original to skip the entire top half of the track. Obviously, that was just an unintended glitch, and again, there was no way they would have brought it back in any way, shape, or form, but it is still something I unironically love about the original. Anyway, I think the new layout for the track is honestly pretty good. It's changed enough where it doesn't take as long to play, but also where the layout is still relatively close to the original in terms of what's important to keep. I do like that the giant ramp in the middle was applied to the other side so that the track can be done backwards, making it more accessible driving around at free roam as well. And subsequently, I also like that the giant flame box thing they put there to make that jump feel so much cooler. I find it funny that it feels like there's a lower budget to this stadium compared to some of Wario's other tracks, but it honestly still feels in character for Wario. Plus, it's got some great usages of world's new mechanics, especially with all the cool tech I've seen from other people. So there may not be a whole lot to this track in the long run, but I still think it's a pretty good track. I'm gonna give it a high B.
Alright, do you guys remember what I just said about Desert Hills? Like, there was another track that people complained that looks nothing like the original. Well, this is the track I was talking about, and yeah, Alex kind of explained it that I don't want to hear any complaints about it because it wouldn't make much of a difference anyway. But didn't you guys also said that in Mario Kart 8 that a bunch of new tracks were completely redesigned and looked nothing like the original at all, and yet nobody had a problem with it? Like, seriously, you guys said that Cheeseland and Ribbon Road look nothing like the original versions from Super Circuit and Mario Kart 8. And people praise both of them like that, and they actually prefer that. So why the hell are people complaining about Wario Stadium from Mario Kart 64 looks nothing like the original in this version? Like, seriously, I don't get it at all. Like, people actually wanted Wario Stadium to come back since Mario Kart DS. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why people have a problem with it when they didn't have a problem with it previously. Just makes no sense at all. Anyway, end of my rant. I do think this track is actually pretty solid. This track is honestly pretty cool, especially with that frame that you jump through. It's a lot of fun and pretty cool and stuff. So, well, yes, it's not the best track, admittedly, but I really don't think it deserves the hate that it gets. Seriously. So I'm gonna give it a B tier. So, but top of the B tier so far.
This track is actually pretty cool. Even though I haven't played it much, I do really like it. I like how it has a junk theme, or it's, as Alex said, it looks cheaper than other tracks, but intentionally, how it's made of scrap metal and stuff like that. I just like that theming. I also like how it feels like it's a monster truck arena, which is really cool. It feels like it's missing something, but at the same time, I really like it. So honestly, I'm gonna put it in A.
Alright, well, I think the average is going to be staying here at the top of B. Our next track to talk about is Airship Fortress. The reason I'm laughing is because Airship Fortress, for those of you that don't know, is my personal favorite track in the entire Mario Kart series. So you can bet I was super excited to see it return in Mario Kart World after missing the Booster Course pass boat. And yes, that means I'm giving Airship Fortress the top of the list, S tier. It's funny how both my least favorite and most favorite tracks in this whole freaking game are in the same cup, the Flower Cup, because it would be like Nintendo to do that to me. Anyway, I'm honestly glad that they brought Airship Fortress over in Mario Kart World instead of the Booster Course Pass, because holy crap, the glow up is amazing, especially with how the actual airship looks more like one of Bowser's airships, while still keeping certain aspects of the original airship design, like the sails and on the masts. The stuff they've added to the track also makes great use of the new mechanics, and I especially like how they put some rails on the walls of the side of the track leading up to the airship, since we were actually able to drive on those walls in DS and 7, and I would guess Tour, but I could be wrong about that. I guess it's too bad that the room before the burners doesn't have the crates anymore, but I'm not really upset about that because I kind of found the crates annoying anyway. I do like that they added a detail in that room of bonsai bills getting loaded into the cannons on the exterior, kind of like the opposite sort of thing going on for the torpedo heads. I also like that they filled in that crack after the tower with dirt so that it can be used as a mushroom shortcut, so that this track can actually have one of those. And I think that's all I have to say about Airship Fortress. I know I'm probably glazing it too much, but that's what happens when you have a bias for a track since childhood. So yeah, top of S tier for me.
I think this track is actually pretty good. Like, I actually really like this track a lot. It's always been one of my favorites in Mario Kart DS and Mario Kart 7, and it's back here again. A lot of interesting stuff happened in it with the bullet bills, which also pissed me off a bunch of times. So there's another lungs getting damaged from the screaming from that. Well, there's a lot of things that make me scream at the top of my lungs in the tracks, but that's just one of my favorite ones. Yeah, I like that you go on the rail on the chain things up near the beginning, where you go up there, and even though I always go for that, mostly by accident, and then I jump off, and then I accidentally kind of messed up because it's kind of hard to control like when you're in the air. Then you go in there, make the U-turn, shoot through it, and everything is stacking. There's no gliders. Everyone's legs is like flying out, which for some reason I don't know why. And don't ask me why. I always liked it when their legs animation goes like that. I always have. Don't ask me why. I just think it's cool animation, and I'm glad it's back in this game compared to Mario Kart 8 and 7. Yeah, it's a really cool track, creative track, and definitely one of my favorites of this game. I'm gonna give it a low S tier because while I don't think it's like my personal favorite, it's still a very good track, and I recommend playing it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool track. I've never played the original Airship Fortress, but this version's good. I especially like at the beginning you can grind rail all the way up the chains on the gate. The only thing I wished was like two airships shooting at each other and you like went between airships. I think that would have been really cool. But I do like the idea of going to the tower. There are some turns that I do find kind of annoying, but overall it's really good. I'm gonna put it in A.
Hey, Prism, have you ever played Mario Kart DS before?
I don't think so.
Well, that makes sense why you probably never played the original version. I was just asking.
Yeah, honestly, I think this version of the track like blows that like all the other versions of the track out of the water, in my opinion. But then again, I think that like that is kind of a result of the DS limitations for, well, maybe not. I don't know. They probably could have been able to pull that off for the original version, but I digress.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have DK Pass. This is a track that I've always just thought as decent whenever I played it in DS and 7, but they made enough changes to the track to make it just a tiny bit better. First things first, I like that they made the track into a ski resort. I think that just makes so much sense for a snowy mountain like that. Granted, it's weird that they did that to DK Pass considering the mere existence of DK Summit, but I'd rather they bring back DK Pass than just reuse DK Summit again after it was in Booster Course Pass, unlike a certain cow track we'll talk about later. Anyway, there's a handful of small additions to make way for the mechanics. Mainly that one pole jump you can do if you time a straight drift after the tunnel. One small thing that I wish they kept for the track is all the snowmen spread around. Which, sure, they kept the giant snowballs an obstacle, but I think the snowman obstacles are way more iconic, especially the bunch of them at the end of the track. I mean, they have a snowman as a playable character, and they have other playable characters that are also obstacles in their respective tracks, like Cataquack and Peach Beach. So I don't know what gives here. Now, sure, technically you can get the snowman to show up there at the end of the track with the help of Kamek, But there are way too many conflicting odds against that it just makes it pointless to try and do. I will say something I don't really mind being gone is that broken item box that was on the hill at the top of the track. I don't hate that item box, but it's just not the worst thing that could be omitted from these tracks, personally. Don't have much else to say, except I find it poetic that DK Pass is the first track of the Star Cup in this game, just as it was in DS. But yeah, I'm giving it a B tier.
I actually like this track. It's pretty solid and stuff. I always like the UK Pass. It's well, it was never my favorite track, but I always have a soft spot for it because it's pretty good. Well, it's not as good as DK Summit because obviously I prefer that one. It's still a pretty fun track, except for like the beginning, like the first half, like the cliff one. That I'm always bad at those, and I'm still pretty bad at them. But after that, I actually enjoyed the rest of the track. And yeah, it is very weird that none of the snowmans are on the track, because that's what made the Mario Kart DS and 7 special. And I know people have complained about the broken item, but honestly, who cares? Because people are just going to use the hell of that anyways, online and stuff. So I don't really mind it that much. And oh yeah, one of the reasons why I like this track better than the others is I always like the music in DK Pass, but for some reason I actually like this one the best out of the three. And maybe it's because of some parts of the beats of the song or something, but I don't know. I just like this version of the song. I just like the music of this one better than the other two, but that's just my opinion. So, yeah, I don't really have much else to say. I'm going to give it a B tier.
I do like this track. This one's cool. I think it's better than DK Summit, but I do prefer Mount Wario. Although I do like this one. I don't know. I think it's a good track. I like how it's more of a actual ski resort than the others. I'm going to put it in B.
Kind of weird to hear you not having all the thoughts for this one, but I guess that's understandable. All right, next we move on to Starview Peak. This one's kind of a combination of Rosalina's Ice World and Ice Ice Outpost. And honestly, I think it's between both of those tracks in terms of quality. For reference, back in the A tier list, I put Rosalina's Ice World in high B and Ice Ice Outpost in lower C. But I think Starview Peak gets a straight C, or I guess in this case, C below Whistle-Top Summit. For starters, there's no obstacles on the track whatsoever, not counting the bits of off-road for the back half of the track. Now for some tracks like a handful of the circuits in the Mario Kart series, that is totally fine, but I feel like there should be a few obstacles like freezies or Goombas with floats on this track at least. Now yes, I did say Goombas with floats, because this track does in fact have a water section off on the side. And this water section actually has a hidden speed up effect to make you go even faster, indicated by the blue flames that come out of your kart's engine. But compared to the other tracks that have this mechanic, it doesn't feel like you're going that much faster in this one. What I think hurts this track especially is that it's best played when it's fully nighttime, because we get to see some northern lights when we're going through the outside areas of the track. And I think the northern lights look amazing here. But the problem is that we very rarely get to play this track at night. And even then when it is at night, sometimes it'll only be for passing through the track and not playing the track itself. I don't know, I feel like this track is just underwhelming. Well, I actually think it's not as underwhelming as Whistle-Top Summit, but it's not enough to go any higher though. I think if we got to go through more of the lower part, and especially the library for the actual track, it'd be a bit better. But as is, yeah, I think I'm gonna put it above Whistle-Top Summit.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks I actually had a hard time figuring out how I feel about it, because when we played during the feed footage, I was like, how the hell am I going to rate this track, because I don't even know what to feel about it. It's one of those tracks where we had to replay again, and I just don't remember this track, honestly. It's just kind of forgettable. I don't know how to explain it, without, because obviously it's not exactly the same, but it's just kind of like a low, bad version of, Rainbow Road. I know it has nothing to do with Rainbow Road, but, parts of it kind of does, mostly, the middle part and stuff, to, the end of the track, because, it's Rosalina, what do you expect? But I just don't remember this track, honestly. At night, it's probably better, because it's supposed to take place in space, well, sort of. But even in the feed footage that, as you guys see right now, we didn't even get the nighttime for it. So yeah, the only good parts I have of it is the ending of the glide lamp and the library itself. But we don't really do anything in the library, so it's just kind of underwhelming, honestly. And yeah, you can obviously do it in free roam, but I'm gonna put it in C tier. And I'd rather play the train track.
This track is just underwhelming. I feel like it's just a worse Rosalina's Ice World, and I already don't like that track. I think the theming of like a library on the top of a mountain is cool, but I don't know. The fact that it's just a big loop basically, and the water section is really the only interesting thing about it. Although it would be cool if you actually like raced inside the library, but as it is now, I'm gonna put it in D tier. This is one of my least favorite tracks in this game, I think.
All right, well, fair enough. I guess we will just have it be just directly below Whistletop Summit and the thing. All right, next up we have Sky High Sunday, which, I'll be honest, I didn't expect to see this track return this fast. But I'm glad it did, because this version is much better than it was before. There are some aspects of the gameplay that have been marginally improved, most because of the lack of anti-gravity, which the anti-gravity wasn't a bad gimmick by any means, but for some tracks like this one, it was pretty rough to say the least. Some of the extra stuff and alternate paths they added to the layout to make way for the new mechanics are pretty cool. I especially like the rails at the start to have the option between those and the glide ramp. And I kind of like the walls in like the area before the final turn to get back to the starting line. Admittedly, I kind of slightly prefer the giant fridge with a bar in the freezer for the starting area instead of the giant ice cream shop inside a giant scoop of ice cream. But otherwise, I vastly prefer the changes to the visuals and track details in this version. I don't have much else to say. I think the track just needed some tweaks to make it better, and that's what I got. Which reminds me, people have theorized that Sky High Sunday was actually made for Mario Kart World initially, and they decided to put it in Tour and the Booster Course Pass first. Because it was, I believe, confirmed that Mario Kart World was in development, like, super early on into the Switch 1's life. But I don't know if it was confirmed that Sky High Sunday was going to be, like, part of Mario Kart World from the get-go for that, and that they did put in the Booster Course Pass and Tour first for whatever. It does make the question on if they made the changes to the track for World to improve it from its previous version because of that, though. So anyway, I think I'm going to get this a high B tier. I think I would prefer Wario Stadium over Sky High Sunday, though.
This is one of those tracks that I actually, no one expects to return, like, at all. Or at least, like, not this quickly. Like, no, this track came from Mario Kart Tour, and most people didn't like tracks from Mario Kart Tour, except for, like, a couple. And this is one of those tracks I actually didn't think I was going to like at first, but as I played it, I actually like this one and actually prefer the 8 version because it's not as boring as the 8 version. I don't know why it is, but I just have more fun with this one. And maybe it's because of the railing part, maybe it just has to do with the side, like you can ride it on the sides and stuff. I don't know, but I actually prefer this one over the 8 version, and I still will play it any day. Also, in free roam, this is another example that I will fall down on purpose sometimes, and sometimes on accident, and it goes like really long, and I go, wee all the way to the bottom until I hit the ground. So, yeah, I'm going to put it in B tier because I actually really like this track. Well, actually, I don't love it, but I actually prefer this one over the Mario Kart 8 version.
Yeah, I really like this track. In 8, I kind of hated it, but in this game, it's actually really good. Also, I feel like it's one of the few tracks that actually has, like, good theming, I guess? Well, that's the wrong word, but, like, how it's not, like, bland around the edges. It's got, like, decorations and stuff. Like, in Starview Peak, like, during the water section, they're, like, nothing around the edge. But this one has, like, a whole bunch of stuff going on, which I think is cool. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in A.
That's surprising. A? I mean, I have an opinion, but it's just like, I did not expect an A tier. I expect B, maybe low A tier at minimum, B at higher B.
I respect it.
Yeah, same here.
Alright, next up, we have Wario Shipyard. I'm gonna be honest, this is the track that I have the least to talk about, because I literally do not care for this track at all. I've never cared for it in 7, and I don't care for it in World. Yeah, they changed the water stuff to make the surface drivable and thereby harder to race on as opposed to being underwater, but that's hardly a difference to me. I have nothing. I'm just throwing in C tier and moving on.
Yeah, I also don't really care for this track, and it's kind of a shame because, you know, I'm a huge fan of, like, shipwrecks and stuff, like the Titanic and stuff, and, like, other shipwrecks. but I just never cared about Wario Shipyard. I never have in 7, and I don't care about it here. Like, I don't have too much to say about it either. Like, yeah, the water thing is, I guess, better because, water makes you slow down in this game compared to 7 and 8. But like Alex said, what's the difference? There's really none at all. So I don't really have much else to say about this track. I'm just going to throw it in D tier and just move on with my life.
Actually, this track has grown on me. I already liked Wario Shipyard, but honestly, the more I play it, the more I like this version. It is a little bland. I wish there was more like shipwrecks or like pirate theming, but I actually kind of like this track, even though everyone hates it. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in B.
Alright, top of the average it is, I guess. Alright. Next up, we have Koopa Troopa Beach. Now, first things first, I need to rant about the elephant in the room. That track name is super misleading because this is not Koopa Troopa Beach from Mario Kart 64. This is Koopa Beach 2 from Super Mario Kart. Now, apparently, from what I've learned, they changed the Koopa Beach name to Koopa Troopa Beach in Tour, and kept the number, which I don't know why they did, because they didn't bring back Koopa Beach 1 in Tour, but they did bring back 64's Beach. But it gets even more confusing because they brought back Koopa Beach 2 again, but they kept the Troopa part of the name and dropped the 2. Like, I don't understand why they do that now of all times and make it that much more confusing when they haven't done that in any of the previous games for the most part. And the worst part about it is that Koopa Beach 1 returned as part of the free roam along with some of the other SNES tracks, but they still called it Koopa Beach 1 for the P-Switch mission. Like, why did they call it Koopa Troopa Beach and not kept it as Koopa Beach 2 when the N64 Koopa Troopa Beach still exists and they were the best way to differentiate the tracks? Like, it's already hard enough with the circuits, Bowser's Castles, and Rainbow Roads. Why did they have to add the stupid Koopa Beaches into the confusion? Anyway, now that I'm done ranting, I can at least say the track itself is fine. I'm glad that they kept the 5 laps from the original version. The glow up from the original design is really cool, especially with that bit of clips in the middle of the track to give it that more depth. Admittedly, I also like that they made it so it's like a dance party at the beach, and the remix of the theme reflects that pretty well, even though I kind of don't like how catchy the song is. It's not that the song is bad, it's just way too catchy, and that bugs me for some reason. So anytime I just like start humming it, it gets stuck in my head, and I'm just like immediately annoyed. But overall, the track itself is far from terrible. I'm gonna give it the highest D tier, or I guess in this case, directly above Desert Hills. But everything about what they did with the name of the track is enough to be controversial, honestly.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about this track, despite like the confusing like stuff and why Nintendo did what they did to it. I really don't have much to say from it. It's honestly kind of boring, really. It's just like, well, it's just Koopa Trooper Beach, and it's just like, you go circles like 5 times, and that's it. There's really like, I mean, there are some, like, there's some cheats there that would, like, try to hit you or something, or like, get in your way and stuff, and the water slows you down. I guess the only positive I really have about this track is that the visuals are actually pretty good. And I like the little music stuff, like speakers and stuff they have at the where it just says the Mario Kart thing. I think that was pretty cool, but that's about it. I don't really like this track that much. I don't think it deserves an F tier, but I'm gonna put it the lowest D tier so far. But I rather play Wario Shipyard than this one.
I actually like this track. It's boring, but I don't know, I like the theming. I do also like the party theme, and the song is really good. Oh, one detail I noticed in Free Roam, each side of like the lap marker has a Koopa DJ on it, but one has a green shell, one has a red shell. I don't know, I like this track, even though it is objectively bad. I'm gonna put it in B.
Okay, I think, I'll just plop it above Starvey Peak. I think that's what I'm gonna do with that. Alright. Next up, we have Faraway Oasis. Honestly, this one's kind of a mixed bag for me. And I don't mean I think it's bad. I mean it's like kind of forgettable, but I still like it a bit. Or at least like I don't like it as much as other people, I should say. For starters, I like the idea of going through this animal haven in the savannah, or at least like it feels more unique than just a normal zoo, but it's still kind of neat. I think the layout is good. It blends the water assets with the man-made stuff very nicely, and the turns and elevated parts of the track are fun to speed through. The track also benefits from the day and night cycle because it can look pretty in some times of the day, like sunrise and sunset especially, and give off a sort of adventure feeling during the day, and then at night, well, I'm not sure what vibe I get from it. One thing that could have helped the track, though, is if some of the animals were there as obstacles like they are for some intermissions. Because there are some animals that are just, like, hanging out, like, watching you race on the track, but, I don't know, like, they could have just had some stationary animals or some animals that slowly move to different positions, like some other animals on other tracks. So, I think that's all I have to say about Faraway Oasis. Far from the worst thing, haha, but it's not one I would personally pick much. I'm gonna give it low B.
I actually really like this track. This is a pretty underrated track that I'm surprised no one really talks about because I think it's pretty interesting in some ways. Now, yes, I will admit it's not the best track and it does have its flaws and stuff, but I don't know. I just, as an animal person, mostly like with cats and wild animals in general, I actually really do enjoy this one a lot. And I just enjoy driving around and stuff. I know we don't mention Knockout Tour because it's not part of it, but you also play a little bit of this in Knockout Tour, and the waterfall there is actually very annoying as hell because it's not water slows you down in this game. But I know we're not talking about Knockout Tour, but I just thought I'd point it out. Yeah. Anyway, I don't have much else to say about this track. Not my personal favorite, and like Alex says, with far from the worst, this is far from the best. But I'm gonna put it in A tier.
I do also like this track. It's another simple one, but I actually like the layout. The only part I don't really like is the waterfall on the turn, because I feel like it just slows you down a lot. I do wish there were animals as obstacles. That is the one thing I think the track is missing. But as it is, I really like it. I'm gonna put it in, honestly, an A.
Yeah, I'll average an A tier for you guys. Alright. Skipping over the rerun of Crown City, because, well, since we're going in Grand Prix order, we're skipping over the rerun of Crown City, which is just one section of the track, and also that sorry excuse of a track that's the Peach Stadium Rectangle. We now have Peach Beach. There is a lot to talk about for this one. Right off the bat, this is not a track I'd ever thought would get expanded this much. And at first, the expansion is pretty cool, but trust me when I say that the expansion starts to feel a bit repetitive after some time. And here's my reasoning for this. I'm a guy that's been playing random versus matches in Mario Kart for years. And in this game, for the most part, I don't mind the intermissions. But there are a few exceptions. Or rather, just one exception now that they gave Koopa Beach 2 a second lap for its intermissions, as well as changing some of its intermissions to begin with. The exception I'm talking about are the intermissions to Peach Beach, because they force you to only play sections 2 and 3 after getting here and skip section 1 entirely. In other words, the actual Peach Beach can only be played in the Banana Cup and when it's standalone selected in Versus. I don't hate the other two sections, but I really wish they let us play section 1 in the intermissions, or at least have some intermissions where we get to play section 1 only. Anyway, that annoyance aside, I do think the track looks very, very nice. The way they were able to incorporate the ideas from the original version and readjust them to make them work better visually and gameplay-wise is great. And yes, that includes the funny sus thing at the south side of the beach. And naturally, of course, the Cataquacks are still here to flip you off, throw you up into the air. Now, I do like the stuff that Section 2 has going for it with all the ramps and rails and whatnot, but Section 3 leaves a lot to be desired. Because for one, it kind of suffers from Rock Mountainitis, where you start the section gliding down for way too long. For two, even when trying to trick onto the wall, it doesn't feel satisfying to get down to the bottom. Like, if you trick onto a wall while you're gliding, I don't know, I didn't feel satisfied doing that, even in the B-roll. And for three, the water area to circle back around to the start is flat out boring. I don't know what it is, but I feel like that water section, the idea of it at least, was done better in the next track we're going to be talking about. So, not a great outing for Peach Beach in this game, in my opinion. I just wish that we could play the first section of the track more often in this game, because if they did have that, then this track wouldn't leave as much of a sour taste in my mouth. But as is, I'm giving it top of C.
Okay, so this track honestly gets a bit too much hate, but I can understand why, because the two intermission stuff, like, you only played the first section once or for one lap, and it can get frustrating because, Peach Beach is one of the iconic Mario Kart tracks. But even, like, those two things, it's really not much of a difference, honestly. Like this inside the city, yeah, a bit annoying, and so is the last part because you're in the water most of the time. But I really do wish we get to play the first part more often and just kind of just only use those two ones as just like the intermission part to get there or something. I don't know. Like, it really should not be the 3 last things or whatever they do. But I don't hate it as much as some people do, but I understand the frustration. However, I'm gonna rant on something about this track. It has to do with its free roam. There's a certain costume. I don't remember which character it was. I think it was Peach, or it could have been a couple of those characters. There is like one food item that I've been trying to figure out how to get to that certain costume, and I could not figure out for the life of me. So I literally had to look it up, and I found it at the Peach Beach area, and it's like super far away to get to. I think it was like a sushi thing. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was in that area. And my god, it was like one of the most obnoxious things I had to do in this game. Like, dear lord, like I did not enjoy that at all. But anyway, as for the track itself, well, the first lap is actually pretty good, like the standard Peach Beach. But then after that, it just, I don't know, just kind of falls apart because, again, why are they forcing us to do the intermission one with this in the city and the water one? That just feels like completely unnecessary. Like, I can understand like the intermission being the first and second lap, and then when we get to Peach Beach, the actual one, the third lap, but it's the complete opposite for some reason, and I'm not really a huge fan of it. But like I said, I don't hate it compared to some people do, but I still don't like it either. So, and I always liked Peach Beach, like the GameCube version and Wii, but I don't know. This one took a step down to others one, and this is keeping it from getting into B tier, so I'm going to put it in high C tier.
I feel like the first half of this track is good, and then the second half just kind of sucks. So I do like the part in the beach, and then where you're like actually going up the ramp. But once you hit the glide ramp, that's when it starts to suck. Because I feel like you're gliding for way too long, and honestly, even when doing like the races casually, I just tried to go down off the glide ramp to hit the ground as fast as I can. I guess you can go on the upper edge so you don't have to do the glide ramp, but the water section at the end is just so annoying. I kind of hate it. Honestly, I'm going to put it in C because it's fun, but the second half just sucks.
Alright, well, I'll put it in the fourth, or the second slot, I should say, for C tier. Alright, and now that we are halfway through these tracks, we're going to be moving on to Salty Salty Speedway. This track can basically be summed up as a Mario version of Venice, Italy. Under normal circumstances, that's nothing to write home about, but it is a little bit poetic for the franchise as a whole because of one tiny thing. An episode of the old Mario Bros. 3 cartoon where the brothers travel to Venice to stop Bowser skiing there, and they learned that they had relatives from Venice. I know the cartoons aren't canon to the series at large, but considering that they're bringing back elements that were made popular through cartoons, it's still at least something to think about, even though it's probably not. I think it's just a coincidence. Anyway, I've grown to like this track a lot. It has one of the most satisfying casual wall ride paths in this game. It lets you avoid half of the water section if you really don't like that part, which I'm honestly indifferent to this water part compared to others. Which, on that note, again, like I was talking about for Peach Beach, I think that the last bit of the water section I feel like is fine. I think the general layout as well is pretty solid. It's simple, but it still has some tricky turns, like the sharp turns after the spiral turn, which if you jump off the stairs right before those turns at the right angle, can let you clear those turns completely, which feels nice to pull off. I like all the secrets and details spread across the greater Lagoon City, as it's called, that you can find in free roam. Like that hidden room behind a waterfall, the mermaid statue of Birdo, and the roof exploring you can do if you know how to get up to them. Not much else I need to say for Salty Speedway. I like the general vibe of it, the layout's good, it has a great casual shortcut with the mechanics, and it's one of the better detailed cities we've gotten in the series. Maybe not quite as detailed as Crown City, but I'd still say it's on the same par of quality, even if it's a single lap track compared to a section track. So I'm going to put it in A tier.
I really like this track a lot. Not only that it's about Venice, Italy, or at least based on it, because, I really like Italy, and it's actually one of those places that me and my mom have actually been talking about going to Europe next. is Italy, and it's also because Mario's Italian. Like Alex says, that Mario 3's TV show, which is actually one of my favorite episodes of that show. Yeah, I really like this track a lot. Like it's actually one of my favorites of this game, and I like the mechanics, I like the visuals, I like details of the city. That's again based on Venice, Italy. And I also like the fact that you can literally go through. Well, it isn't free for. I don't know if you can do it in actual races. Probably not. But through the waterfall, and there's like a pipe there, and it shoots you up at the top. Like it's actually pretty funny. Me and Alex and Prism were playing hide and seek, like off camera, like we had recorded it. But and Prism was the seeker, and I was hiding, and I hide in the waterfall, and then he didn't realize that you can actually go through it. That was the first time he ever noticed that. So that's a kind of cool, interesting detail there, and fun fact. So I really like this track a lot. It's actually one of my favorites of the game, and I definitely recommend it. So I'm gonna give it an S tier.
Normally the water tracks in this game are kind of mid, but I feel like this one's actually really good. Honestly, this is one of my favorite tracks. I really like the theming, plus the canals are cool. Also, there's that really cool flippy trick you can do at the end that I really like to do, where you like to take a glide ramp and skip like half of the water driving, which is fun. I don't know, I just like this track. I'm gonna put it up an A.
Alright, I think the top of A average is where we're going to leave it at. Alright. Next up, we have Dino Dino Jungle. Holy Jurassic Park, Batman. This track's glow up is so freaking cool. I didn't think they would go that route when bringing this track back, but it honestly works really, really well. I like how they changed up what dinosaurs appear as the race progresses. I did find out apparently Nasi, the iconic dinosaur from the previous version of this track, doesn't fully return, which is unfortunate, but there is a Brachiosaurus that hella resembles Nasi that shows up in its place and can be driven up like a rail. There's also a Triceratops that can be used as a ramp, a Plesiosaur that replaces one of the bridges going up to what was originally a giant cave is now a laboratory, and a T-Rex that comes out of a wall in the lab on lap 2 and is pretty much an asshole for the rest of the race. Okay, I don't hate the T-Rex, but there have been times where it screwed me over and cost me some victories. I think the nest of eggs they added near the exit of the lab is a fun touch. I like that they still kept the water geysers from the original cave, and I also like how the geysers can get you up to a new alternate path with boost panels if you're lucky. And there is a slightly easier way to get up to that path by getting on a rail in the hallway leading into the lab and timing a trick jump onto the wall just right to get up to that path. Something I think is a bit annoying about the lab is that originally in that section, the shortcut on the right going in required a precise angle and a mushroom to get across. In the case of 7 and Tori, they changed it to a glide ramp, but the angle was still tricky. But here in World, they filled the void up with grass, so you can just mushroom across no problem. It's not an egregious change, but it definitely removes the challenge from that. So overall, I'm glad that they kept the layout and some obstacles consistent, and the glow up the track received makes it a lot more interesting to say the least, but it's far from my favorite track in this series. I'm going to give it a bottom of A.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I don't like this track. Like, I don't like the original version of this track, and while I do think this version is like better, I don't know. I just never been a fan of Dino Dino Jungle, and I just never have. Not even a Mario Kart 7 version. So yeah, I do think this track is like better. Like, because I remember when I originally played it, I actually considered it the worst track in the game, but obviously I don't think it's that nowadays. But I just really do not like Dino Dino Jungle. I don't know if it's because I just had bias or just like bad memories with it in the original version, or maybe it's just because the TX might be just obnoxious hell. But like, there's only two things I really like. This one that has to redeem itself from being an F tier. And that is the laboratory, which I think is actually pretty cool. That it's no longer cave. Yeah, and the visuals of this one is actually really good. So yeah, overall I don't really like this track at all, and I don't hate it anymore as much as I used to. I still don't like this track, so I'm gonna throw it in D tier.
I feel like this track was changed the most from its original version, but honestly for the better. I really like how they basically made it into Jurassic Park. It's now, instead of a jungle, it's Dino Dino Labs, which is cool. I also like how all the dinosaurs, instead of just being obstacles, are like different ramps or rails or stuff. I don't know. It's just a really cool track. Honestly, I'm gonna put it. Oh, I want to put it in S, but I'm gonna put it in A.
I don't know whether the top average at top of B or bottom of A.
Probably bottom A because you guys like gave it more positive and
Yeah.
and
All right, fair enough. Yeah. All right. All right. Next up, we have Great Question Mark Block Ruins. Weirdly enough, I've always thought this track was underrated for some reason, until somewhat recently when I realized it's actually more overrated than under. But honestly, I still really like this one despite all that. Firstly, the idea of ruins set in the sky is not something I would have expected to see from Mario, but tying it to question mark blocks makes it work well. As difficult as some of the turns can be, they're still pretty satisfying to speed pass if you charge up the better drifts when you get the turns nailed down. The area after the turns, but before the final 180 turn, is pretty cool since you have some different overall paths you can take, which is especially true if you get up the wall in the previous turn and go gliding down. I think the way you fly up to this track in the intermissions and free roam is really cool. You go down this river and then get to a giant water geyser that launches you high enough to reach the ruins, or at least you're gliding close enough for it to do that to you. Some of the secrets you can find in this track in free roam are pretty cool as well, especially the stuff at the top of the giant question mark block if you manage to get up there. So while there may not be a whole lot to say about question block ruins, I still think it's a solid track, so I'm gonna give it an A tier.
Yeah, honestly, I think this track is overrated. I mean, look, I don't think this track is bad or anything, but it's just like, is it really like the best track or like good track like people say it is? Honestly, no, I don't think it is. But like I said, I don't hate this track. It's just my problem with this track is just I don't know. It's just kind of forgettable. Like there's just not much really interesting happens in it. The only thing I can really say is that the ending is actually pretty good, like bouncing off the clouds and going up. But I don't know. I just don't really like this track. And what also really changed my opinion on this track from like me like not liking it as much as other people is that when we were playing, when we were doing a hide and seek section, I was the seeker, and this track was probably the most annoying track to play hide and seek because I just could not find Alex and Prism, and I just got so mad with it and got annoyed with it that this is one of the reasons I don't like this track. It's like it's just really frustrating and it's just very annoying to deal with. Racing it is actually fine, but like playing hide and seek, I just do not like this track. So yeah, I don't think this track really deserves the praise that it gets. So, but I don't think it's terrible. So this is a tough one. I'm gonna put it in top of C tier, but it's so close to being the bottom B to top of C. But I think top of C is probably better for me.
Yeah, this is a good track, but I'm kind of with Michael here. It's not my favorite. I really like the idea of like a big ruins in the sky connected to question mark blocks, but it's mainly there's like 2 or 3 turns that always get me in this track. I don't know what it is about them, but I can just never stay on this track. It's a really cool idea, but I don't know. I wish the track itself was a little better. I'm gonna put it in bottom of B.
What was the rank you gave this one again, Michael?
I think you give it an A tier, or like
No,
I
you.
Oh, me. I thought you mean yourself. My bad. I give it a top of C tier.
Top C, okay. I'll average it the slightly higher B. All right. Next up, we have Cheap Cheap Falls, and I don't know how to feel about this one. Because on one hand, I really like the theming and the idea of going down the river made from a waterfall, but on the other hand, the execution of the layouts is not really that good. My biggest gripe is the river part itself. I don't think the layout of the river is bad, but the water controls combined with it being a river that moves you forward makes it difficult to go through. I'm sure there are some ways to skip chunks of the river, like that strat where you jump to the edge of the cliff and that gets to the first turn of the river faster, but it still doesn't make it any less annoying. I also wish that the bit of water where the waterfall ends as you're driving behind it could be used as a shortcut, because it feels like it could be used as a great shortcut if you used a mushroom there. But unfortunately, that counts as out of bounds, and I found that out the hard way early on in my time playing the game. The only thing that saves this track from being lower is the theming, because I think coming off the heels of something like Dragon Driftway or Ninja Hideaway, The Japan culture in the air of this track is just as good as those. So Cheep Cheep Falls lucked out from getting a worse position, but at the end of the day, I'm still not a fan of the track, so I'm going to put it in low C.
Yeah, I'm not really much of a fan of this track either. This track is probably one of the most obnoxious tracks I ever had to play in this game. Like, the water is just, like, super annoying because, like we said many times, the water completely slows you down, and I feel like this is, like, the worst one out of it. Yeah, even worse than Koopa Beach 2, which surprisingly. But, my god, I just cannot get used to the water controls in this game. Like, it's super obnoxious, and you're like that for, like, pretty much, like, 80% of the track. And it's just like, it just gets very annoying. Like, I really tried to like this track, I really did. Because I remember liking it originally, but the more I play it, the more I really disliked it. And I just don't find it fun. If this was in Mario Kart 8, and since we can go underwater, I probably would have ranked it probably B tier. But since the water slows you down and stuff, I'm going to put it in D tier because I really do not like this track. I actually would rather play Wario Shipyard and Dino Dino Jungle than this one, in my opinion.
I both like and dislike this track. The theming is cool, and I actually do like the idea of like racing along waterfalls. But the main thing I hate is that the off-road part of the track, it's the whole like little islands are off-road, not like the shore. So like the last turn going into the finish line, there's that little island there, and I feel like I always clip it, and it slows me down, and I hate it. I just wish the like black sand was still part of the track and the grass was off-road. I think other than that one nitpick though, I like the track. I'm gonna put it in middle of B.
Alright. Lower middle C, average it is. Alright. Next track to talk about is Dandelion Depths. Now this one I feel like is underrated. This is one of the most simple yet pretty tracks I've ever seen, or at least the titular depths are like that. The layout is honestly kind of interesting. You start at the top and slowly make your way down the turns and stuff to reach the depths. I really like that there are barely any walls going down the track, so you can get glimpses of the depths as you're descending. I also like the descending water at the bottom that you can jump down in rhythm, and then you drive up this steep hill to get back to the top. Something I didn't think about until writing my notes is that the upper part of the track kind of reminds me of the Wooded Kingdom from Mario Odyssey. It's probably not what they were going for, but it still feels like it to me. I don't have much else to say about Dandelion Depths. It's just a simple but fun one with not many things wrong with it, if at all. Like, granted there wasn't like a whole lot for me to say about it, but I don't know, I just kind of like it. I'm gonna give it low A tier.
I don't really have much to say about this track because honestly it is kind of forgettable, but I actually kind of like it at the same time. It's probably one of those situations where I forget it exists, but when I actually play on it, I actually remember it, and then I completely forget it exists again until I get it again. I mean, it does have its moments where I like, but it's not really like my favorite track. So I'm gonna put it in C tier because it's like, again, not terrible, but I just don't remember it that much.
Sounds cool. I like the idea of like starting up on the surface and then diving down to like a watery cave. It's pretty cool. I just wish there was a little more to the cave though. That's the only thing. Other than that, I do quite like this track. But honestly, I'm gonna put it in bottom of A.
Alright. All of the average for a B, top of B then. Alright. Our next track to talk about is Boo Cinema. There is so much to say about this track that one might just call it peak cinema. So first things first, the details and stuff you can find in free roam for this track are just fantastic. I especially like that they plopped all 3 of the Ghost Valleys over the Poisonous Lake outside of the theater. Because like they could have just had like a more normal road leading up to the cinema. But the fact that they specifically took the Ghost Valleys, redid them in terms of like their visuals, and plops them over this giant poisonous lake, I think that was a smart idea. I also love the sign on the entrance. They're playing the Boo Castle movie, which that's what it's called. They're playing it 24/7, 365 days a year. Under normal circumstances, that would be impossible. But here, it's because you literally go into the movie. And by the way, I also love that it confirms Mario's World to have the same universal laws as our own planet, and that they might just have leap years as well. Now, something I need to bring up, the shot of Peach that we see everywhere in the movie area may look hella sus at first glance, But I promise that's not what it's meant to be. There's literally just a line that goes down the middle of her shirt. And we can even see the collar of her shirt there in that shot. It still might leave someone with a lot of questions and a raised eyebrow, but we're not going down that rabbit hole. Just bottom of the line is, that's not what that picture of Peach is supposed to depict. Anyway, I think the movie area is just so freaking cool. I'm glad that they were able to pull off the change in lighting when you go into the movie. I like how the castles basically look like they were ripped from Castlevania. And I like that Behemoth appears in this area as well. In fact, this is his first appearance in anything since his debut in New Super Mario Bros. 2, so that's cool. I think while doing my research for the notes, I think I found out that Behemoth was apparently the director for the Boo Castle movie or something like that. I think my favorite thing about the track is that the movie screen actually has the classic film reel countdown, but more specifically that the countdown is tied to the player's movement. So if you get up to the screen faster with a mushroom, the countdown will go down faster. If you stop in place near the screen, the countdown stops, and if you go in reverse, the countdown counts up. I think it's just a funny detail, but also cool that they did it that way. So yeah, Boo Cinema is probably one of the best to come out of this series. It's not my personal favorite of the new tracks in this game, but it's still an amazing course. Bottom of S tier for me.
Alright, first of all, I'm just going to say this is my personal favorite track in the game, and so obviously I'm going to put it in top S tier, and I'll explain my reasons why. I like the design of this track. You go into the movie theater, and there's a bunch of boos there, like they're going to watch a movie together, and I also really like that number thing that you go on. At first, I thought it was just random, like, you know, like they do the old cartoons that they go like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then play the movie, but no, it's actually based on your movement. If you stop, it doesn't move. If you move slowly, it goes slowly. If you go faster, it goes faster. If you go normal speed, it does the normal speed. And once it turns 1, then you go through the theater and you see a bunch of like stuff about the boos and stuff and the director of the movie. And like in the free roam, you can play like basically the first 3 Ghost Valleys. Well, I'm not really a fan of Ghost Valleys. My dad's favorite track is Ghost Valley 2. So I'm pretty sure if he ever plays this game, he'll appreciate that a lot. I like the visual of this track. It's really cool and stuff, and maybe because I just like Haunted Mansion stuff and like ghost stories and stuff, so that's probably why I have a bias for this track. And also I'm a fan of Luigi's Mansion. So yeah, the only thing I don't really like from this track is that in the movie thing, Peach is in the thing for some reason, which doesn't really make any sense to me because would have made more sense if Luigi was there instead. I don't know if they did it on purpose or not, but it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me that Peach is there. So yeah, but other than that, I really like this track. This is actually my personal favorite track in the game. But there's almost one more thing I was going to say. There's in the free room, there's also a bunch of popcorn stand, which I actually really like as well. And I would go through there a few times and actually got popcorn itself. I was like, oh, hell yeah, that fits so well. I could eat some popcorn while watching some booze, watching a movie, and go through it. So, top of S tier, like I said.
I really like this track. It's not my favorite, but I think out of all the tracks here, it's the most creative. I really like how it starts in a movie theater, and then you actually go in the movie is really cool. I don't know, it's just a good track. And Alex already pointed out the thing about the film, but I don't know, I do like this track. I'm gonna put it in S.
Anywhere in S specifically?
Nope, just S.
Alright. Keep it in the middle of the S then. Alright. Next up, we have, I believe, Prism's favorite track in this game. This is Dry Bones Burnout. Okay, so this was quite an unexpected surprise to see. Just a Day of the Dead themed track with Dry Bones in mind. It's honestly pretty cool. Much like Cheap Cheap Falls, I do think the layout could have been better given the amount of turns, rails, and alternate paths there are. But I don't think the layout is as bad as that one. It's just more difficult than annoying. It's mainly just the higher part you can reach with the upper glider ramp, as those turns are just tight enough that you can slip and fall down to the main road if you aren't careful. It's not the worst thing ever, it's just that I've slipped off the higher part a handful of times in this track, including for the B-roll, and I just get a bit bothered since the upper part is way cooler than the lower part. I also think that this is a track that hugely benefits from being played at night, as sometimes the lighting of the track in the day strains my eyes a bit. Still, the Day of the Dead theming is a really cool idea for a Mario Kart track, and that's kind of what carries the track a bit, so I'm going to put it in B tier.
You know, this is a track I really didn't care for, but the more I played it, I actually started to appreciate it a little bit more. And also, it's it's basically a Day of the Dead theme. And fun fact, guys, for those of you who don't know, Day of the Dead is actually celebrated on my birthday, which is November 2nd. Yeah, this track is actually pretty cool. I like the visuals here. I think it does play better at night, so it's one of those things that it would have worked better as a night track than a day track, but it's still pretty fun and stuff. And while I don't think this track is memorable or still my favorite, I really started to grow on this track the more I play it. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in solid B tier. This track is definitely growing me a lot more the more I play it, and I kind of feel bad for not giving it a chance originally.
Yeah, as Alex said, this is my favorite track in the game. I don't think we've really gotten like a Dry Bones or Skeleton theme track before, and this one is really cool. Also, the Day of the Dead theme is just awesome. Also, the track itself, I feel like, is really good. I like how it's actually split up into like different halves, or like split path sort of things. I don't know how to explain it, but I really like how there's so many different options of ways to go. I don't know, it's just a good track. I'm honestly gonna put it in S tier.
I'll just keep it at the top of B to average it. Okay, next up, we are talking about Moo Moo Meadows. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea why they brought this track back for a second console Mario Kart game in a row. This is the most pointless retro track in the whole game in my opinion. Yes, even more than stupid Desert Hills. Like, there's almost no differences in the track compared to the version in 8. In fact, even the music sounds almost identical. Sure, there's a handful of music tracks in the game that take cues from their versions in 8, like Moo Moo Farm / Yoshi Valley, the GBA circuit theme, and even some of the tracks that are present in this game, like the Raceway / Wario Stadium theme and Sky High Sundays theme. But in those two cases, it's fine, because those tracks are different enough where it's not as bothersome. Whereas here, it just gives Moo Moo Meadows a feeling of too much deja vu coming off the heels of 8. Now sure, there's a couple of neat things they added to make it stand out, like the various farm buildings around the track that we can explore through other means. But that's really not saying much. Even with the day and night cycle that world has, I honestly like the consistent sunset aesthetic more. Like, a lot more, in fact. It doesn't help that more often than not I play this track in the daytime, and it looks a lot more boring that way. Even more than in the original Wii version, since there were a lot more hills in the background, and a deeper shade of blue for the sky. I don't think this version of Moo Moo Meadows is terrible, but it's still just it's just a pointless remake. I did put the track in low A tier when we ranked the tracks from Mario Kart 8, and while I would put this version in that same slot, I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm dropping it to the top of B. Actually, no. Top of B, but specifically below Dry Bones Burnout. I wish we got to see Moo Moo Farm again, or at least some other grass track we haven't seen in a while, then see Moo Moo Meadows again this soon. Yes, we had this track because of the stupid cows. Or, well, I guess the cows being here are the reason why Moo Moo Meadows is back or whatever. But, again, if they brought back Moo Moo Farm, they still could have made that work. They could have given Moo Moo Farm a huge glow-up or something. I don't know. I have nothing more to say.
Yeah, honestly, this is one of the most pointless retro tracks I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, I like Moo Moo Meadows. I always have, and I always will have a soft spot for it. But why is this track even in this game? Like, I would rather have Moo Moo Farms return than Moo Moo Meadows here. Because that track hasn't been remade in almost 20 years, or actually over 20 years now, because of Mario Kart DS. And it would have been a perfect opportunity to bring that back for people that haven't played Mario Kart DS or Mario Kart 64. And like Alex says, the music is identical as well. And, you know, like, other music is also identical as well. Anyway, this track is just, like, you know, the same as it was in Mario Kart 8 and Wii, honestly. Well, mostly 8. There's just literally no difference at all. I guess the only difference is that in Free Roam, there's, like, a farm there. But that's, like, really the only difference I can think of. Like, it's just identical. Like, it's literally like I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's just like what Alex said. Like, it's just like completely pointless. Like, I don't know. I feel like this track was only made because they just wanted to make like a filler track, and they just couldn't pick up other tracks besides this track. I wanted to play an A tier, but no, I'm gonna put it top of B tier. And I feel bad for doing it.
Yeah, this is definitely a filler track, as Michael said. Like, why bring this one back? It would have been much cooler if they had, like, Moo Moo Farm, where you actually, like, drive through, like, a barn and, like, all around it. Like, that would have been cool, but it's just a field. Like, there's nothing special going on. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in D. Not because it's bad, just because Mario Kart 8 does it so much better, and it's such an obvious filler track.
Yeah. Alright. Speaking of a track that I feel like is kind of filler, this is Choco Mountain. Look how they massacred my boy. This track is just not as good as it was in Tour and the Booster Course Pass. I don't know why, but the idea of turning this track into a monster truck stadium for the Charging Trucks just doesn't sit right to me. That's partly due to Wario Stadium in this game being in the same category of level theme. I do like that they brought back the chocolate lava stuff from that one level of Chocolate Island Underground from Mario World, but I think that's my biggest compliment for this track, or at least this version of the track. Even the remix of the music is just not for me. I feel like they went way too hard on the guitars. At the very least, they did something completely different with this track to warrant its return this fast, unlike Moo Moo Meadows, but compared to like Sky High Sunday, they changed it way too much for my liking. So, I'm giving this version of Choco Mountain low B. I hope that if Choco Mountain does return in the future, that it's not this version of it.
Yeah, I don't really like this version of Choco Mountain either. Like, it's kind of like, I can say kind of similar things what I said to Moo Moo Meadows. It's just kind of a filler track, but it doesn't feel as forced, so I'll give it that. But I don't know, this track is like extremely annoying to play. Like in the chocolate stuff, like you just like sink into it, and it's like super hard to control from that. Like once you touch it, you're pretty much gonna like go in there, and Lakitu has to come and pick you up. I guess the lava is kind of similar as well. So yeah, this track is actually a step down compared to Mario Kart 8 version. And also, I don't remember it was this track or the other tracks. I think it was this track. There was one pedal that I had to like get. And my God, it was the most obnoxious thing I have ever had to play.
Oh
like,
yeah, I that had to have been this track because we were trying to like partially teamwork, but also like just like me and Prism kind of had to like stay on like where the panel was to like help him like get up.
Like no joke, like that thing took literally like 30 minutes. It took a long time. The problem was is that in order to get there, I had to like mushroom up there and try to like slow down and hit it. But for some reason, because there were item boxes right next to it, I could not get a mushroom no matter how hard I tried. So I had to basically like throw items around over and over again just to get a damn mushroom. And if I missed time it or something, I had to restart. And there's been times where I relined too far and I had to get all of the mushroom all over again. Like it was just like the most annoying thing I ever had to deal with in my life. And yeah, I did like rant about Peach Beach, like one of the foods being annoying, but holy crap, this one was actually far worse. At least that one, it took quicker to do. This one took like a half an hour to do, and I had to recycle items over and over again just to get it. And thank God I finally did, so I don't have to do that again unless I do like an actual playthrough of it, which on my channel. So yeah, anyway, yeah, I don't like they did to this one. Do I want to put in F tier? No, I think that's a little too harsh. I'll put it in D tier.
Honestly, this is my least favorite track in the game. It just... Normal Choco Mountain's fine. Why did they have to ruin it? I get the idea of trying to make it into like a monster truck arena type thing, but it just doesn't work. You already have Wario Stadium, you don't need another one. Also, the song is just worse, and the track itself is just terrible. The mud they put everywhere sucks. There's like a tiny little part of the track you can drive on, that's fine, and then you go an inch off the edge, you're in the mud, and you're at half speed. Like, why cover the entire track? It sucks. Like, I like normal Choco Mountain, why'd you have to do that to it? Honestly, I am gonna put this one in F. I just hate this version.
Yeah, honestly, I changed my mind too. I'm also put it in F tier. I don't like this version, especially that stupid panel. I know it has nothing to do with the actual racing track, but it's still part of it, and I don't like that. So, I'm throwing it F tier as well.
All right. Well, I'm changing my I'm changing my ranking too, but specifically to high C instead of low B.
Funny how me and Alex both change our opinions after Prism says stuff. It deserves an F tier.
All right. Coming off the heels of that stupid garbage, we have Toad's Factory, and it is about damn time that this track returned. So many people have been clamoring for Toad's Factory to return, and we finally got it, and it's still just as good as it was back in Wii. Sure, there are some aspects that weren't kept, like the toad sign outside of the bottom building of the factory, but that's just a minor nitpick if you ask me. I don't know why, but I feel like things like that, like specific visual details not returning, for some reason just make it enough for people to call it like garbage. And as we discussed with Wario Stadium, I feel like that's not even like criticism, that's just like being brain dead. Anyway, I'm glad that certain aspects of the track remain intact, like how the brick blocks are made into item boxes, or the bulldozers on the mud that can cover up the boost panels, or perhaps the objectively best detail, the wind-up key at the top of the factory. I find it interesting that the outside area on the right is a lot closer to the water than it was before. I'm not for or against the idea, I just kind of wonder why they did it. I think my favorite change to the track is how the music actually gets to continue playing when you jump out of the bottom building instead of just resetting. That's always something that's bugged me since I was a kid, because the rest of the song slaps just as much. Sure, they didn't keep the clapping or whatever when you are in the bottom building, but that was barely noticeable when you're playing because of those loud-ass sirens, which are back in this too, by the way. I like the added bits of world mechanics here and there, such as the bars held up by the cranes that you can hop across if you time your jumps right, or that wall ride at the start to get an upper look at the top building's interior. Overall, Toad's Factory just barely gets bottom of S for me. I would bump it up further, but at the end of the day, the track layout is just a rounded square with a 180-degree turn at the bottom. Not that that's a bad layout, it's just simple, and that's all it needs to be. That's how I feel about it. So yeah, bottom of S tier.
Yeah, I really like this track. This is definitely going to S tier. And I know a bunch of people from my fans and stuff, if they know me for a long time, they're gonna say, "Oh, Michael, of course you're gonna put this in S tier. You love Mario Kart Wii. You always think it's the best thing ever. So of course you're gonna put it there. It's nostalgia." Okay, first of all, guys, no, it's not nostalgia. Okay, maybe it's a little bit, but really, this track is really one of the best tracks in Mario Kart. It was my favorite Mario Kart Wii, and it's one of my favorites here. Yeah, I like the layout here. I like the visuals here. I think it's a definitely great remix track. I also like the little when you get to like the conveyor belt section. There's like a ball or something. I don't know what that's supposed to be, but it like rolls around, and I don't know why I just like that so much. And the crates are back. Like there's a lot of great things about this track. And even in like the free roam, there was also one panel that was also kind of annoying to deal with that I had to do with these guys, but it was like a lot easier because I just had to like time the straight drift better and like mushroom and stuff, so it wasn't that annoying. So yeah, and even there's also this little part of it in the knockout tour, and I think it's pretty cool as well. Yeah, I really like this track. Toad's Factory has always been one of my favorites in Mario Kart Wii, and it's back here, and I actually like this version just as much as the original. So yeah, I'm giving it an S tier, a low S tier, but still an S tier.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorite tracks. I barely played Mario Kart Wii, but I always liked Toad's Factory and hoped it'd come back for good reason. The track is just good. The theming is really cool. I like how you get to see how the item boxes get made. The music's also really good. I don't know, it's just a good track. I'm glad they brought it back. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in S.
You like it so much that you got to spit some bars there. Alright, next up, we have this game's iteration of Bowser's Castle. Man, they absolutely cooked with this version of the Koopa King's domain. First off, the greater castle itself stretches out quite a bit on the map. It starts down at Big Donut, which as a side note I think was a smart idea to contain in the borders of Bowser's territory. And the frontal castle walls stretch out pretty far on both sides, and the area builds up as you drive up a big volcano and fly to where the actual track is. And the actual castle has a lot to explore around as well, since you can go around on the inward dome surrounding the central building. And not only that, but you can also go up on the top of the walls along the perimeter. This is also a place that benefits from being played at night, because it looks so cool at night. But honestly, I think the atmosphere of the castle, it helps to keep the daytime from hurting the visuals. The track itself is so cool as well. You start by either going into the building, or by going onto the chains to go on the roof of the building. Then you take these tight turns that circle around the side of the building, where you descend down to a ramp and are surrounded by a giant vertical cylinder of lava. Then you fly up really fast through this cylinder and up to the stormy clouds, and suddenly you start going faster. Because yes, this last third of the track has the speed up effect that Starview Peak's water part had, and this time it actually feels like you're going faster and it's super exhilarating. You get to drive down beneath the giant Bowser Cloud thing, and then circle around to a floating 180-degree turn, which has meteors dropping down on it, and you get back to the start and start it all over with a new layer of excitement. Oh man, it's just saying all that stuff rapid-firely like that. It's just, I don't know, man. I have nothing else to say. This is easily one of the best Bowser Castle tracks to come out of the Mario Kart series. In fact, I think it might even beat Wii's Bowser Castle as my favorite. So yeah, easy S tier.
Yeah, this Bowser's Castle track is pretty cool, and it's definitely going to S tier. This is my favorite Bowser's Castle track since Mario Kart Wii. It's just really creative. It's like very fun to play on, and it's just like you can do the rally stuff, and then you go up the crowds a little bit, and then you have to climb down to the beginning of the castle and stuff. It's just really cool. And also the lava is also like very interesting. I know, like obviously you're supposed to avoid it, but it's still kind of funny because there's been times where I just say like, oh no, the lava is burning up my ass. I don't know why. I just like saying that a lot. It's just kind of funny to me. I don't know why, but yeah, I actually know a shortcut. Actually, I know two of them, but I actually know one because I watched Professor's videos on it. And it looks like pretty easy to do, but I've never tried it, so I don't know if it actually is or not. It's kind of ultra, but it's that little like side wall jump that you skip part of that little turn right there once you exit the first room. And then there's also another shortcut, but I'm not going to go into that detail because I think that's more skilled players. So yeah, like I said, this track is going to S tier, and probably the best castle we have since Mario Kart Wii's Bowser's Castle.
I really like this version of Bowser's Castle. I like how in free roam you can see how the castle is absolutely gigantic, but the track itself is just the highest part of the castle, which is cool. I also really like how halfway through you get launched up into like a storm cloud, and you're in 200cc basically. I don't know, I think that's really cool. At first I didn't really like this track when I first played it, but honestly it's one of my favorites. The beginning part where you have to go through the tower at the beginning before you get to the turns can be annoying, but if you jump up to the edge and then take the chain up to the top, it's more fun that way, or at least in my opinion. I don't know, it's just a good track. Honestly, I feel like this is another S tier.
All right, for a mutual agreement, do we want to put it at the top of S though?
I do like it more than DK Spaceport, honestly.
You know what? Screw it. Let's put it above DK Spaceport. All right, we only have 4 tracks left to go. For our first track of the Special Cup, we have Acorn Heights. I can't believe it's not Maple Treeway. Okay, joking aside, this track is basically a much simpler and basic version of the tree track we all know and love. Which is not to say that this track is bad, but Maple Treeway is just a lot more fun and iconic. This track does have a couple of things going for it, like the hallway of giant leaves and mushrooms after the glide ramp, or the giant field of Y paths and stem rails, or, my personal favorite, the treehouse that we weave through at the start. I don't know why, I just like the treehouse sort of thing they got going on at the top of the track. I think some of the set pieces in the areas leading up to the track are pretty cool, especially the route that takes you through a giant open apple. I know that's not really part of Acorn Heights itself, but it is within the area that Acorn Heights is located on the map, I think. At the very least, I'm pretty sure it's closer to Acorn Heights than it is Mario Circuit, or the SNES Mario Circuit. There are some parts of the track that can be hard to get through for victory if you're not prepared, like the turn leading to the aforementioned field of paths at the end, or even the field of paths itself, since the CPUs will usually know how to take the better paths there. So, despite some shortcomings, I do still think Acorn Heights holds up on its own merit. It may not be as good as its orange-leafed cousin, but I generally don't mind playing on it. I'm going to put it in B tier.
Okay, so this track is one of those tracks that a lot of people really like, but I'm one of those people who actually don't think it's as good as some people say it is. So, hold on, before people get mad at me, I don't think this track is terrible, but it's just kind of like a less fun version of Maple Treeway. Now, yeah, I prefer Maple Treeway, and I always will, and think it's more iconic, but it just feels like it tries to be too much Maple Treeway, but it just kind of fails at it, and I just don't think this track is really as good as some people say it is. But I mean, I do like the these things that for some reason that it's act like a rail for some reason, which is kind of weird. And then some of the rails is that you go. There's one part of the rail that you go like super on the other side. It's kind of like it's before the guide ramp, and that if you like actually mess up, you fall down. But if you actually succeed, you'd actually go through it like that. So yeah, I don't have too much to say on it. Although interesting enough, I think it was this track in Knockout Tour. When I recorded my first ever Knockout Tour online for the experience, I haven't uploaded on my channel yet. But spoilers, I actually got second place on this track in Knockout Tour, and it was the second time I ever played Knockout Tour. I know it sounds random, but it was true and stuff. Like I said, I don't have much to say. It just feels like a worse version of Maple Treeway, and I don't really think it deserves the like that it gets. But like I said, I don't think it's terrible. So I'm gonna put it in bottom of B tier.
Yeah, this track is just discount Maple Treeway. I mean, admittedly, I am biased because Maple Treeway is one of my favorite tracks in the series. But I don't know, this one just doesn't feel that good. I don't really like playing on it. I like once you're down from the tree, there's like all the plants and stuff are giant, and then the tree itself has like houses and acorns. It's cool. But I don't know, just when I play this track, it just makes me want to play Maple Treeway. Also, the bottom section with all the giant plants, I feel like the mud there is really annoying. Like, there's only one path on the right that's safe, and if you miss a jump, you're just in the mud, which is super annoying. I don't know, it's not my favorite. I don't absolutely hate it like I do with Choco Mountain, but it's not one of my favorites. I feel like this one's just a C tier for me. Like bottom of C.
I'll average it top of C then. Alright. Our third to last track we're talking about is the SNES Mario Circuits. Yes, I know this is just labeled as Mario Circuit, but I mean, come on. This is a mashup of Mario Circuits 1, 2, and 3 from Super Mario Kart. I like how the idea is like, okay, which of the SNES Mario Circuits are we going to bring back? I know, let's do a mashup of them. And as a mashup track, I think it works in its favor considering how short they can be sometimes, especially Mario Circuit 1. Now there is one major critique I have for this track, and that's the elephant in the room, or I guess lack thereof. The lack of Mario Circuit 4. I don't know if Nintendo is just allergic to Mario Circuit 4 or something, because we have not seen that one since Mario Kart Super Circuit. Like, yeah, it's basically just a harder and flipped version of Mario Circuit 3, but that's hardly an excuse if you ask me. There was enough space to include Mario Circuit 4 in the top lefts if they moved Circuit 3 over and reworked some of the interconnecting paths, so I don't know. If I had to guess the actual reason, it's probably because the track would feel extra long and make its part of the special cup feel tedious, coming here from Acorn Heights and then playing all 4 of the circuits. I don't know. Anyway, for what we did get with this mashup track, I like all the details they added all around. I like the center building with the Mario statue, I like the stadium lights and audience stands they added, and I like that the color patterns for the curves around each track are different. Circuit 1s are green, Circuit 2s are blue, and Circuit 3s are the original red. There are some alterations they made to the tracks compared to the previous versions. The ramp jump in Circuit 2 is back to just being a normal speed panel ramp as opposed to a glide ramp like in 7, which they also made the other side into a ramp like with Wario Stadium, which I think is nice. The oil slicks were removed, which is unfortunate but not the worst thing because I never cared for those. And some of the pipes have been rearranged or removed entirely, which I don't think I would have even noticed. I think that's all I have to say about the SNES Mario Circuits. I think what they got going for it is pretty cool, but it's still sad that they didn't include Circuit 4 in this mashup. But it's not the worst thing ever. I'm gonna give this a solid B as well, like I did with Acorn Heights.
Yeah, I like this track. Like Alex said, it's a combine of Mario Circuit 1, 2, and 3, and they did not bring back 4 for some reason. But yeah, I like how they combine all of this track instead of just making them like separate tracks of Mario Circuit 1, 2, and 3, and then making them together. I think it really fits the best and combines of all the people that played Super Mario Kart back in the day, like my dad. Yeah, I don't really have much to say. I think it's a solid nostalgia track, even though I don't usually like it when people use nostalgia as excuses, but I really think this is like nostalgia done right compared to other things I've seen nowadays. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in solid B tier.
Yeah, this one's a pretty cool track. It's not like the most interesting thing, but it's cool that they combined basically every Mario circuit into one and themed it like Super Mario Kart. I think that's just a really cool idea. I don't know, not much to add. It's just a good track. It is a bit long, but they split it up well. So honestly, I'm gonna put it in A. This is another one I really like.
Ooh. No, I'll just put it at the top of B, I think. All right. For our penultimate track to talk about, we are finally talking about Peach Stadium. And I say that because, again, the stupid rectangle that exists earlier in the game. Again, we're not talking about that. So, this is basically the sequel to Mario Kart Stadium, and in a way, I kind of like it more than that one. The track layout is much more interesting with the angles and turns around the track, and some of the higher up paths can get a bit tricky with all the speed boosts around. That one narrow path especially can be a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing. My favorite part about the track is the projection of the stained glass window of Peach's castle that covers the path down to the water. Normally, the stained glass window is something I haven't given much of a second thought about, but they actually changed the design for this projection to have Peach in her biker outfit, or what they now call her arrow outfit. Now, while on the subject of the stained glass window, it's of course still present in this version of Peach's castle, but they actually did something super cool with it in free roam, which is making it into a portal that puts you in a mirror version of the entire world if you have mirror mode unlocked. Anyway, the only criticism I can give this track is the fact that it's a somewhat mild difficulty level track, and that they put it at the second to last track of the overall Grand Prix. Yeah, that gives it a very cool intermission to the next track, but that doesn't excuse this one for being somewhat easy and being in a cup that's usually reserved for hard tracks. And as a matter of fact, all the special cup tracks in this one aren't really that difficult, aside maybe Acorn Heights, depending on how the last part of that one goes, like I said earlier. And I guess also Mario Circuit 3 because of that turn in the middle still existing. Aside from that, Peach Stadium is still a decent place to race on. Far from amazing, but far from terrible. At least if we don't count that crappy rectangle, like I've been saying multiple times. Because if we count that rectangle, then this would probably be dragged down lower. Personally, I prefer to leave out the rectangle so that it doesn't hurt this track's reputation, so I'm going to give it a B tier, just like the previous two Special Cup tracks.
Yeah, I think this is, like Alex says, it's basically Mario Kart Stadium, but like a sequel version, and I think it somehow actually did it better, because it's freaking huge, like in free room and stuff, and of course when we normally race on it, and there's also the way to do mirror mode if you unlock mirror mode. I haven't done that yet, but hopefully I will someday if the stupid 150cc actually gets in my favor for once. But yeah, I don't really have much to say on it. But like a better version. The only thing I think Mario Kart Stadium did better is the music. Maybe because I just like the music better. But I don't know. I kind of don't remember this music like that much. So yeah, but other than that, this one is also going to go to B tier.
I feel like this is a cool take on like the usual Peach's Castle type track. I like how you go up and around the castle itself, and the stained glass you mentioned is a cool touch. Not much to talk about, but it's just a good track. The theming's good, and I like the track itself, but something feels like it's missing. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. I'm gonna put it in B.
Alright, for our last track, to the surprise of no one, we have this game's iteration of Rainbow Road. And I am genuinely surprised with how they went all out for this Rainbow Road. And I mean going all out, because this Rainbow Road is huge, and it's gonna be hard to bring in all my thoughts without it taking too long, because I love this Rainbow Road. So I'll just give my main primary thoughts and then talk about my favorite part or parts about each section. To start, this track has the absolute best presentation of all the Rainbow Roads. From the exciting way you get to this track in the intermission, to the amazing visuals, to the sense of finality and goosebump feelings that the final lap music and exclusive fanfare give. I find it funny that this track basically has anti-gravity incorporated into it, but they said, nah, we can actually just do that now, which makes anti-gravity as a gimmick completely irrelevant. One of my favorite background details, and subsequently my favorite thing about Section 1, is that we see some banners with all the trophies of the Grand Prix on the big turn at the top of the track, except for the Special Cup trophy. But then when you glide down to the very last part of the track, you see the banners again, but this time it does include the Special Cup trophy. That's one of the best feelings of, hey, you earned and deserved this trophy I've ever seen. Speaking of background details, I think the way they condensed the world below down to a super low polyform was done pretty well. Although I find it hysterical that Great Question Block Ruins is just a flat texture that's not even floating. Now for Section 2, I love the atmosphere of the floating islands and the water you drive on. This water also has the speed up effect. In fact, each section has a part where the speed up effect happens. And the music for section 2 really sets the mood. It's like angelic. It's great. For section 3, I like that they expanded on the idea of a space station from 8. And more than that, I think it was done better here. I like that the rainbow thwomps are in this section to add to the challenge of blazing through the station, since most of it has the speed up effect. And then for section 4, I like how crazy the twists and turns are for the first part of this section. And I also like that there's a train with some of the characters or enemies we meet throughout the game following along. Kind of like the train from the X64 Rainbow Road remake. I think the one critique I have for this Rainbow Road is that it's not quite as difficult as some of the others Rainbow Roads, but most of what I like about the track heavily outweighs that. So overall, this track is getting an S tier from me.
I actually don't like this Rainbow Road. Now, look, I don't think this track is bad or anything, but is it really that good? Honestly, I don't think it is. I have so many problems with this Rainbow Road. My biggest problem with this one is that I just find it really boring. Like, it's just not that interesting at all. I even played this Rainbow Road, like, with Alex in Idaho when we went in June of last year, and even still, I just cannot remember this track. And there's been like plenty of times where I'm like, you know what, maybe I was being too hard on this track. And then I just replay it. But every single time I replay this track, it somehow just keeps getting worse and worse the more I play it. Like, I don't know, like this thing is like very boring to me, and there's just a lot of things I just don't like about it. The first lap, like, really nothing happens. The second lap, like, well, it is a little more interesting because, you know, it has like the little water things or whatever that is, but again, it's just not that interesting. The third lap gets a little bit more interesting, but still I just kind of forget about it. And the last lap is probably the most memorable one because it's the only thing I can really remember. It's all the enemies and obstacles from the entire game, like cheering you on and all that stuff, and then you exit it and make it. And I think another reason why I don't like this track is that it's way too easy. Like, isn't a Rainbow Road supposed to be like difficult and stuff? Like, I mean, I get it, you don't want to make it too difficult, but my god, they made this track way too easy. Like, seriously, the most difficult part is the boss section, but that's like really the only difficult thing that happens. And you know something? I actually prefer Mario Kart 8 Rainbow Road than this one. Which, you know me, I wasn't too crazy on Mario Kart 8 Rainbow Road either. But that one felt more difficult. It felt like they tried a lot more, and it's not as boring compared to this one. This track just feels more like, hey, we're just gonna congratulate you because you play your ass off just to play this game. So we're not gonna put any effort to like make it difficult at all. Which, I mean, I guess some people would say is not a bad thing, but again, it's goddamn Rainbow Road. It's supposed to be challenging and difficult. So despite my rant in this game, there are like some positive, like the visuals is very good, and like I said, the last section is actually really good, and I like the thwomps are back. So yeah, other than that, this was, to me, I know some people like this Rainbow Road, but this was just, to me, this was such an underwhelming way to end the Mario Kart World, in my opinion. Maybe my opinions on it could change in the future, but honestly, I highly doubt it, and it's just probably just going to get worse and worse the more I play it. But like I said, I don't think this Rainbow Road is terrible, but I really do not think it deserves the praise that it gets. So, bottom of B tier for me.
I don't know how I feel about this one. It's an objectively good Rainbow Road. I just don't really like it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's the best theming and everything for a Rainbow Road, and it looks great. I really like the space station section, and like the final section when you go down to the last lap is very fun. It's a fun Rainbow Road, but I don't know, it's just, one, it's way too long. It feels more like a cinematic track than an actual, like, challenge. I personally prefer the challenging Rainbow Roads. Like the SNES Rainbow Road on 8 Deluxe is one of my favorites. Like, this one's just not that hard. I know you don't need to have a hard Rainbow Road, but it's just when it's way too easy, it feels like it's missing something. Also, I swear this one's longer than N64 Rainbow Road. I know it's not actually, but it just feels that way. I don't know, it's just on repeat playthroughs it gets really boring because it's so long. But for the first time, it's one that's, the first time you play it, it's awesome, but more and more you play it, the more bland it gets. I don't know. I'm gonna put it in S tier, just because I think it's one of the best Rainbow Roads, even though I don't like it as much as I like the other Rainbow Roads.
You know what? I can respect that, and I just think it's funny because like I don't know why, but I think I'm just immune to the whole it being worse and worse on repeats. I don't know why. I think I just adore it too much. But well, it's still not the worst way to go out. We've had worse locations of going out in our tier list. So this one at least like even like not even like just it getting S tier, but more specifically like the fact that it at least did not get like a terrible ranking compared to some of our other ending locations for the Smash tier list at least.
Yeah, I just could not rank Rainbow Road like lower than B tier. As much as I don't like it, it's just like it feels wrong to do that because, like I said, it does have its moments where I like it, but it's just like not that memorable to me.
Yeah. Well, that about covers it. We funny that like we've basically made F tier irrelevant again, just like we did with Mario Kart 8, but
yeah, so that is it for that. And my favorite track of the game is Boo Cinema, and my least favorite track is pretty much all of those is okay, maybe not Prism, but definitely me and Alex. Desert Hills.
Yep.
But anyway, I think we have proven that Mario Kart World isn't that bad of a game compared to what people say when it first came out.
People are so
yeah, most of the tracks are actually really good.
I'd say overall I had a blast ranking this stuff, even if this is the most amount of time we spent on one recording for a tier list so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I also really had fun doing this. I cannot wait to do more tier lists like this in the future. What will our next be? I have no idea, but hopefully it's something and we can get onto it soon.
Yeah, but, like it's funny. Like the only reason we're doing this now of all times is because I said something along the lines of like doing this tier list back when we did Knockout Tour in June, and just I just like said that, and then I realized, oh shoot, we need to do the Smash Bros tier list, and then I basically kept my word on doing this tier list here in February. So
yeah, like I said, we don't know what our next tier list will be. Mario Party mini games or maybe other stuff. I don't know. Like we'll figure out. We'll see, and it probably won't happen for a long time. But
yeah.
But like I said, I hope we do it again in the future because it's really fun to do. I always like doing this.
Yeah, they're always fun to do.
Yep. But anyway, that's about it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.
See you.
Goodbye. Have a great day.